Hello guys! Yesterday Google released Gemini 3.1 Pro, which is now available in their own Google Antigravity IDE. My personal experience with Antigravity in the past was not too good, but I decided to give it another shot. I thought maybe with new model they got better, and also in Antigravity changelog you see new versions coming up, maybe it got better. So I decided to try it out on the same test that I did earlier this week with Opus and Sonnet. So I have Excel sheet. If you haven't watched that video, here it is on my channel, Sonnet versus Opus, and I will link that in the description below. And I was hoping to fill in that table with Gemini in Antigravity and in Gemini CLI. Because in the same article announcement in Antigravity blog, they say that it also is rolling out for Gemini CLI users as well. And in this video, I will show you my experience and the reason why I was unable to fill in all that table, just those two fields, and I will share whether my opinion about Antigravity changed for the better. So first impression, I had to wait for Gemini 3.1 Pro to be available in the model list in Antigravity. Yesterday I found out that the model was available, but it wasn't available for me. So I went to sleep, and after I woke up this morning, I relaunched Antigravity and saw this. So yes, successfully Gemini 3.1 was available for me. So I was able to choose it in the model list, and also in the settings of Antigravity I found that they introduced this model quota for every model. It doesn't say exactly how many tokens or percentage or anything, but still it's something. So I was thinking, how much of that usage would I get on free plan in this case? I have Google account and I have Google One membership, but I think it doesn't include Gemini 3 Pro, or at least it's limited usage. But how limited exactly, I don't know. I haven't found that information. But I still proceeded with the testing. And for my methodology, I had 7 Laravel projects, which I talked about again in the previous video about Sonnet and Opus. But basically, this is one of the prompts. So I have Laravel project, and I ask AI to create 2 CRUDs for API in this case. So I started with a project that was easier. So no visual files, fewer files to generate, and Opus and Sonnet models delivered that in 3 minutes or so. Now Antigravity did deliver as well, but twice as slow, in 6 minutes. But it seems like it was slow because it was asking for very small details and thinking along the way. So this is one of the screenshots that I took along the way. So it launched PHP Artisan help to make models. So it seems like maybe Gemini is not that trained on Laravel framework. Then I thought maybe there's something with the guidelines, but I did generate Gemini MD with package Laravel Boost, so it did have all the information about Laravel and other related packages, but I didn't find how in Antigravity you can enable MCP of Laravel Boost or any other MCP like Context 7 for documentation, for example. So in the documentation about MCP in Antigravity, it seems like they have only limited list of supported servers, so I don't find anything about Laravel here or Context 7 for documentation, and it's just manage MCP servers, and I haven't found how to install my own preferred MCPs for documentation. Also, what I found surprising and negative, that it generated files for Laravel models, factories, controllers, and stuff like that, but no tests. So it didn't verify its work in any way with automated tests. And then I asked it, so I can show you here in the last conversation, did you consult Gemini MD and did you use any skills? Because with Laravel Boost package, there are skills in agents past testing, which is about automated test, and the answer was yes, I did consult Gemini MD, which is good. So it ran Laravel Pine for code styling, but I did not use any skills. So it did recognize agent skills, which is great. So the skill was available, but Gemini decided that this task didn't involve writing tests. Other models in the past, whichever ones, Opus, Sonnet, GLM, Codex, whatever, they all write some tests in my experience. And then I asked why it didn't verify its work. And then a hilarious answer. So it kind of thought for a while, and then considering past implementation, now thinking about something, and this is the answer. I realized I should have proactively generated tests. And then it activated the skill of past testing, so this one, which is great, so it can discover the skills. That is a positive experience. But then this is when it actually realized that it hasn't generated any tests. So I had to specifically prompt for it. But when I did, it did deliver the tests. But luckily I had my own evaluation tests outside of that project, so I ran this command. Unfortunately, I cannot run it again because I rolled back the code now. So I had tests eval from external subfolder, and when I executed at the time, Antigravity tests did deliver without any errors. There were 53 tests passing successfully, so technically the task was completed, but slower and with random experience that the tests weren't generated, the skills weren't consulted, and along the way it didn't know how to generate Laravel model, it seems. And then I thought maybe Gemini CLI would do a better job, and I reinstalled the newest version of Gemini CLI, logged in with my Google account, and then I see MCP server here. Wow, so it does recognize MCP. So if we launch MCP list, I see Laravel boost on the list. Great. So it probably is better at recognizing the tools. But then when I launched model, I see that Gemini 3.1 isn't available in Gemini CLI yet. So maybe there's a video coming out about that in the future. And for the record, it does say that Gemini 3.1 Pro is rolling out starting today in Gemini CLI. And also in the official changelog, I don't see 3.1 anywhere. So Gemini 3 default is. A few days ago, there's also preview release, but also 3.1 isn't here anywhere. So probably a few days until it's available in Gemini CLI, and I will probably retest it later. So then I thought, okay, I will proceed with Antigravity, and took another project, Livewire in this case, with a similar prompt. This is a fresh Laravel project, and create CRUD, but this case with Livewire starter kit of Laravel, and then I started getting errors. At first it was thinking for 1.5 minutes until it errored with this: terminated due to error. And this was my exact experience with Antigravity. Earlier while testing, it was randomly crashing with errors without any particular reasons. So this thing continues with newest Antigravity and Gemini 3.1 Pro as well. But then when I chose to continue, it did actually continue. So it did generate quite a lot of files, again much slower than other models. So it took 8 minutes more for it to generate 21 files in total. So as you can see, making Laravel requests, controllers, web, and blade, until I got this error: you have exhausted your quota on this model. So it was working for 9 minutes, which is like twice as slow as Sonnet or Opus. Also 1.5 minutes went for the first error of randomly failed agent, and then it just couldn't deliver until the end because, well, I was out of quota on free plan. Out of curiosity, I clicked the plans, and this is what I got. I probably could have gone for Google AI Pro for €0 per month for the first month. But then, I don't know, my experience with Antigravity so far is so negative. I would happily put some money and test it deeper if it did deliver well, or if it was clear at least. So it says higher rate limits. How higher? For Anthropic and for OpenAI plans, it's pretty clear. It's like 5x quota with percentages running, how much left. In this case, I'm not sure what would I pay €22 per month for. Of course, there are many more features in that AI Pro plan, and this is actually, in my opinion, Gemini family of models in general. They are not that focused on coding compared to Anthropic, and now OpenAI is getting back there as well with Codex. Gemini was always better with first Google products, with deeper research, with things like Notebook LM, which I personally use for summarizing the podcast, for example. So in my personal opinion, Google as a company just do not put focus on coding experience and coding models and coding abilities of Gemini models. At least for now. Maybe it will change in the future, but even if you look at the changelog of Antigravity, I noticed there are a few versions in February, but then earlier it's just too slow. So one version with just one improvement, then version with 3 improvements, another version with 1 improvement, secure mode option, 1 improvement. I mean, what are we talking about here? Compare that to the speed of how Anthropic released something in Claude Code, also OpenAI with Codex. They are slower, but still, what they're doing with GPT Codex models is pretty impressive as well. So yeah, it seems like Antigravity and Gemini for coding is more like catching up and trying to be in the game somewhat. But at this point, in my personal experience, they cannot compare with the market leaders. So that's why, unfortunately, I was unable to fill in that table. Maybe I will retest it when Gemini 3.1 is available in Gemini CLI. We'll see in the future. What is your experience with Gemini for coding specifically? Maybe you use it in another IDE like Cursor or something, then share your experience in the comments below. And if you want to follow more of my AI experiments with various models and IDEs, of course, subscribe to the channel, but also you can subscribe to a weekly newsletter where I cover not only my own experiments, but AI news from the community. So for example, you can see community tweets here, so prompts and tools that people recommend, and also what they build new inside of Claude Code. So I will cover all in my weekly newsletter, so subscribe at the bottom. The link will be in the description below. That's it for this time, and see you guys in other videos.